Hey everyone at home, it's Griffin back to wrap up my best of 2021 series with my overall 5 favorite comics of the last year. Some of these were on previous genre lists, so bear with me as I run them down. Plus, I'll be giving away 4 trade paperback copies of my number 1 overall favorite comic of 2021. As always, this is purely subjective and especially hard to narrow down, so to help me wrap the year, I opened it up to Discord and Twitter to get some other opinions as well. Let's do some shoutouts. So up first, Big Mike at Y Baratronic says his top 5 is The Me You Love in the Dark, Homesick Pilots, Radiant Black, Silver Coin, and Berserker, with an honorable mention to Venom 200. What an ending indeed. Carlos at CDN Caped Crusader has Batman the Imposter, Strange Adventure, Geiger, Daredevil, and Superman Son of Kal-El slash Action Comics sharing the super slot. Dalton Leprich at Dalton Leprich picked Noctera, Wolverine, We Live, Geiger, and Once in Future, while also shouting out Batman the Detective, Dark Ages, and more. Floyd, from my local comic shop, Final Boss Comics and Games, at Final Boss Comics, went with Something is Killing the Children, Stray Dogs, Bunny Mask, Maniac in New York, and Carmen. Gabe, from over on Name to Be Decided Discord, chose I Walk with Monsters, Echo Lands, Carnage Black, White, and Blood, X-Men Hellfire Gala, and Superman the One Who Fell, with an honorable mention for Far Sector. Fizzy's number 1 was New Mutants, followed by The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, Eve, Demon Days, and Mamo, with special mention to I Kill Giants, a book I also love. I Comment on Comics, at Comment Comics, thinks it's Carmen, Not All Robots, Beta Ray Bill, Orphan and the Five Beasts, and Geiger. Radiant Black Pod at Radiant Black Pod, of course, picked Radiant Black, and also Swamp Thing, Beta Ray Bill, Nightwing, and Moon Knight. And finally, Sergio at Insert Name INC said The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, That Texas Blood, Darling, Home, and Philadelphia. There's some great opinions from the internet about some great books there. Thanks to them for participating. Go follow them on social media. How do these lists match up against my own? Well, let's dive in. Number 5 overall this year for me is James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno's The Nice House on the Lake. Nice House was my favorite horror book of the year. It had an incredibly strong first issue, and although it was a bit of a slow burn, it kept me talking about it for its whole 6-issue run. I went into it a little more in the top 5 horror video, but James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno are set for a Nice House return in April, and I can't wait to dive back into this story about the apocalypse. It's best approached without too much background, but know that you're getting some incredible art with, in my opinion, the very best of Tynion's character-driven writing ability. The cast is diverse and fully realized, with flaws and complexities and interpersonal history that makes the world the story occurs in feel lived in and creates palpable tension that permeates every new turn. It reminds me of Spencer's Morning Glories, with its flair for symbols and open-ended mysteries, but more focused with narrative thrust and tenable objectives for its characters. Number 4 comes with a strong trigger warning for self-harm and suicide depiction. Guillaume March's Carmen is a story about death, life, and changing our path. March's magical realist take on the bureaucracy of reincarnation sees a playful Grim Reaper leading a recently deceased woman through realizations and acceptance about the situation around her death and how she's impacted the people around her. The art here is beautiful. Escher meets A Christmas Carol suicide with flying spirits in cream tones. Pages flow as a main character Kata flies, guiding our eyes through the page with a brilliant sense of motion and position. There's some similarities that could be drawn to another book on this list, The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, but the approach couldn't be more different. Auteur books like this rely so heavily on their creator's singular vision, and Guillaume March has the ability to tie his love story together in a fulfilling way. This book will read great in trade. I do feel that the singles had some pacing weaknesses, but read as a whole, this is a story that will stick with you. Number 3, Radiant Black. Like my 5th pick, this book also featured in a previous Best Of series. It was my favorite Cape book of the year. So, of course, it made the list of my overall favorites. Radiant Black is an indie superhero book from Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. Elevator pitch, Invincible meets Power Rangers, with a dash of self-depreciating humor and quarter-life crisis. There's a bit of that failure to launch suburban energy that I find relatable in our protagonists. Dreams deferred, potential unrealized. Fans of the old Parker luck will feel right at home here. These characters ground an increasingly wide mythology spanning the world, space, and dimensions, and we are only 12 issues deep. Kyle's sensibility and humor are balanced well with Costa's Sentai-tron futurism-inspired style and Mattia Yacano's colors. The book is full of action and explosions, but those actions and explosions have consequences. As I've said before, the real beauty of this book is in its execution, with the whole team collaborating at a high level, allowing their joint creativity to thrive. Very excited for the upcoming crossover, Supermassive, and other planned miniseries as Radiant Black begins to roll out a joint comics universe. That Texas Blood is my number 2 book of the year. It's a crime comic tinged with the occult set in the fictional but tangible Ambrose County, Texas. Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips have invested in the heart and soul of the setting and characters, giving it that lived-in small-town feel. This is a slower burn with a very deliberate rhythm and an inexorable push. I spoke about the first arc in an early episode of the podcast, but the second arc has built on that expertly, introducing new wrinkles and town background. I especially enjoyed issue 13's ghost story. Phillips has a clean and effective style with a cinematic flair to the layouts. His previous experience working with the best team in crime comics as a colorist has definitely prepared him well. I'd compare this to No Country for Old Men and Southern Bastards with their older protagonists, gritty approach to storytelling, and investment in setting. And so we've come to the end, my favorite comic of 2021, The Many Deaths of Leyla Starr. This should come as no surprise. If you've interacted with me on social media or spent any time with me in real life over the last few months, there's a good chance this book has come up. From the first issue, I was hooked. Ramvi's writing style merges wit and humor with sadness and an earnest heart. Philip Andrade's cityscapes are breathtaking. His character acting and figure drawing is unique and emotive. Ines Amaro's vibrant sunrise-sunset palette enhances that work with a dreamlike interpretation full of those deep purples, indigos, and oranges that I love. At every level, these creatives complement each other's work, making it greater than the sum of its impressive parts. It's just a beautiful comic executed perfectly. The story sees an embodiment of death become unemployed and made mortal, where her fate becomes entwined with the baby who cost her job. You see, that baby will grow up to invent immortality, so the newly reincarnated Leyla Starr dedicates her new life to stopping him. But it's so much more than that. The way the story's narration shift from a viewpoint cigarette, a blackbird, and even a temple is genius, balancing metaphor and symbolism with history and an ebbing cynicism that gives way to an incredibly emotional ending. This comic touched me deeply. In fact, I loved it so much, I'm giving away 4 copies of the trade to celebrate a great year in comics and to support this creative team in particular. Like and leave a comment here to enter. I'll also be putting up a Twitter post and a Discord thread as alternate entry methods. It's open to anyone in the US and Canada, and I'm my own sponsor. I'm really excited for folks to discover the story for the first time. I'll pick the winners at random on February 28th, and I'll announce them that day. You have until the 27th to enter. And that's a wrap on 2021 comics. It was a big year for me, one of the hardest of my life, but launching the channel has really been a bright spot. It's a lot of fun for me to talk about so many books I love. I hope you're enjoying the content. Sometime in the next 2 weeks, the next Past, Present, Future Comics We Love proper episode will drop. I'm very excited to talk with my friend Jamie. She's been hella patient with me as I drag my feet creatively. Here's to 2022, guys.